the 360 Pulse podcast, the show where we explore the latest innovations in immersive technology, real-time situational awareness, and the future of panoramic imaging. I am your host, Jennifer Sertle, VP of Marketing at Circle Optics. Our guest today is Gavin Snyder, the founder and CEO of Imagine Aerial, a pioneering drone and AI data company transforming critical infrastructure maintenance in the United States. In the race to maintain and modernize critical infrastructure, the U.S. faces a daunting challenge. It's ranked 13th globally, despite being an economic powerhouse. Traditionally, inspection methods are slow, expensive, and often dangerous. But what if there was a new way to transform these outdated processes? Well, enter Imagine Aerial, a company that is leveraging AI-powered drones to revolutionize infrastructure assessment, reducing inspection timelines from months to days while enhancing safety and predictive maintenance. With over 30 years of experience in architecture and business leadership, Gavin has seen firsthand the high cost of reactive infrastructure management and the urgent need for safer, more efficient solutions. Under his leadership, Imagine Aerial has built an AI-driven cloud-based ecosystem servicing over 300 clients across 26 states and 13 military bases. Beyond his work as a pilot and entrepreneur, Gavin is deeply committed to STEM outreach, workforce training, and veteran job placement, ensuring that the next generation is equipped to advance smart infrastructure solutions. Gavin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. I appreciate being here. That's a glowing review, by the way.
Well, it's so easy. Given our relationship with Genius New York and working with Griffiths and New Air, luckily we've known each other for 3 years now, and I'm so excited to have you on the show. I'm really interested in how it is that you identified the need for drone and AI-driven infrastructure assessment.
Yeah, great. So I working in the AEC fields, which is architecture, engineering, and construction. For those that don't know, I joke about it, but it's really not a joke. I hate heights. So that was kind of the root of it all. In the midst of hating heights and hating being on buildings and roofs every day, along with many of my counterparts, in the early teens, there were some things happening in technology with processing speeds increasing. The controllers that control UAS got much faster, much smaller, and lower in cost. And therefore, there was a proliferation of UAS. And the market was kind of coming around. The FAA was recognizing this. And so kind of the confluence of all these things led me to start a switch in the early teens from my ADC career to UAS.
You know, what's exciting, our chief operating officer, Ian Gagger, also comes from an architecture background. And I think that makes you uniquely qualified to understand, how buildings are made and that type of thing. I know you can't disclose your secret sauce, but can you walk us through how your drone and AI systems work and what makes them different than other traditional inspection methods?
Yeah, so really, it's a multi-part process, and it really starts with UAS in data collection with the UAS, which speeds our collection rate up to 10x. So we're beyond dealing in percentage gains, and we're in multiple gains. So for instance, in traditional inspection methods, it would take 2 people, for instance, on some of the arenas that we go to inspect. Some of our larger projects they range from 150,000 square feet up to 1 million square foot facilities.
Oh, yeah.
So these are large facilities, large roofs, large buildings. We take on an arena, for instance, would take 2 people about 30 to 33 days to inspect using traditional methods, lifts, ladders, scaffolding, photography. And we've reduced that 33 day inspection time to under 3 days.
Oh my goodness.
So when you add our other technology in with that, the AI, now we're processing imagery much quicker. So we're gathering big data where they would come away from traditional methods with hundreds of photos. We have sometimes hundreds of thousands of photos and data points. And then we're able to, big data is a little bit cumbersome because of the quantity, but we're able to parse that within 24 hours through AI and start to forward problems, immediate problems that the customer should look at very quickly. We're able to do that within 24 to 48 hours. So it's all about speed. And really it's about catching up in essence, because America is catching up with our infrastructure. So it's all about speed, and that really sells what we do. And now we're offering cloud-based solution that gets that data out to the customer quicker without them handling big data.
Wow. I mean, your core competency of processing that speed is really incredible. How do you see AI evolving the infrastructure space, and what new capabilities do you think are on the horizon?
Yeah, good question. That's we get that a lot because we lecture in UAS AI. It's kind of across the board, and we're talking to universities. So we even go out and talk to universities and classes about they're more AI. They might be more AI focused than UAS focused. But what's happening in AI, of course, AI is getting faster, and we will reach a limit under current processing methods and abilities. So we're processing AI through traditional computers, and you can hear about it in the news. They're talking about big data banks and how are they going to address
Yeah.
the power being consumed and that kind of thing. So it's huge amounts of data. What's interesting is when you type into chat GPT and you get something back very quickly, that's all text based. It's all search based. What we're doing is machine learning and it's computer vision. So we're dealing in imagery, which has, if you understand, because if anyone who works with data, a Word file, for instance, is very small. An image file is very large. When you start sending photos or storing them in your iPhone and so on, you start sending these things and processing them, the data gets much more cumbersome. So that's where AI is going to hit a limitation with size, because we're dealing with machine vision. But there are real big developments on the horizon in quantum computing and even quantum algorithms. There's another company in our ecosystem, Boson QSci, and they are using a quantum algorithm waiting for when computers get here.
Wow.
So we're seeing developments in the speed, but we will start to hit a wall with how much we can process and the speed of that. But that'll come around with changes in computing power for sure.
And your company, you've already got a lot of distribution, 13 military bases in 26 states, 300 customers. How did you get that infrastructure of your business into the infrastructure? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I attribute a lot of that to number one, my background in architecture. So that's an easy sell. That's a talk that we've walked for years. So when we go into an architecture and engineering firm, we are speaking their language, so to speak. We've worked in that and we understand what they want to see. So we've helped streamline their communications with us in a way that as we're working, they can tell us what they need, but we also see things out there and they understand that. So we tend to gather data in a better way. We're not just a UAS company for them. So we kind of have that as number one. That's our easy sell. The other, and it covers the gamut. There's customers that aren't, they're a little UAS averse, for instance. A very good customer line for us is college and university, where they have multiple buildings, many assets, flat, vertical roofs, parking lots, all kinds of things that need assessment and typically deteriorate. So they have other concerns about UAS, privacy and students and safety and other matters. That's a little bit harder sell. So that's a demo sell, we call it, where we have to go out and demo what we do and show them what we do and show them what the benefit is going to be. But often after they know and they see it, that's an easier sell because they go out and sell for us. If one university has it, many others want it, that's great for us. The other part of its credibility is we have a lot of airspace permitting ability in-house, just in the nature of doing our work. So we've gained respect with some of the military outlets and federal government for permitting and safety. So we were very early allowed on airports with drones, which is rare, and on military bases. We've worked for the 174th here at Syracuse Airport. And that was one of the first air bases we worked at. From there, it kind of grew.
That's amazing. That's great. You've built an impressive team, including several PhD experts and business leaders. What's been your strategy to assembling the right talent?
Kind of all over the board. It's interesting. even some of the advisors we don't list, we consider them early advisors. There's a couple people locally, and I won't mention their names because they're somewhat private, and they're working other jobs, and they get a little agitated if we mention them too much. But they've been instrumental in, one is at New Air, one is at the 174th. So we've had very good input early on. Mm. And there's kind of an overlap of what they told us. Was they told me if I'm going to make the adjustment, I came to them with my ideas early.
Nice.
And so in hearing those, they thought the feedback was very strong, that it was something that would work, and it was a great idea, and it was novel at the time. And they liked the progression of how this would evolve. But what they told me is that I had to have credibility in aviation. And so I just surrounded myself with people who would have that credibility, and also went out and learned everything I could about aviation. I've always been interested in it, always flown model aircraft. And so to get my Part 107 and do the other things like that, NIST training and things like that, those were all things that we did, thermal training, for infrared, for different types of sensors and things like that. Those were all things that we did as a team, and went out and got the training that we needed to gain credibility, and that helped us as well. So as many advisors as we have, both official and unofficial, have been very instrumental in how we've developed as a company.
And when you had the architecture, was it your business? Did you grow the architecture firm?
Yeah, so I've worked with other architecture firms more of my career than I've had my own company, but I did have my own architecture firm in Orlando for 10 years, from 2001, not quite 10 years, 9 years, from 2000 to 08, 08, 09, and grew that to several people and work in many states, which that kind of taught me in my 30s how to branch out and market across nationwide and get out of a geography. So that was some of my early marketing that I did in my career.
That's great, because every founder has kind of a defining moment or a mentor who influenced their journey. I wondered what particular experience made you decide, you know what, I'm going to go, because when you started, I mean, today everyone's aware of drones and all these different applications, but when
AI,
and yeah, I mean, it's but I think prolific. When you actually got your foothold, it was the future, right? So I'm wondering if you want to just share anything for our listeners about like the journey that made you decide this is a risk I'm willing to take to build something in this new emerging space because I have this hunch or whatever. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. And it's a great question, because I have had people ask, whether it was my own firm or the firms I was working for. I've worked for some pretty large companies, both national companies, some very well-known architecture, engineering, construction firms, all the way up to international firms. One was 14,000 people worldwide, 140 offices worldwide. So pretty big firms, and I was a leader in the Northeast. So that gave me a little bit of confidence to branch out, so to speak. I knew that I kind of always knew I had something to go back to. And to this day, I think I'll eventually retire if Imaginarial sells or gets a majority acquisition or something like that. That's always the goal. But I'm imagine myself retiring, doing a couple of select architecture projects a year. I think I'll go back to that. But so I kind of had that safety net. It's the career you can go back to, so to speak. But I think the early ideas that I took out to people were so well received, from everyone from aviators to people at the 174th to military to mainly asset owners. So infrastructure has a variety. It could be any type of asset, any type of physical asset for us that's deteriorating when we say infrastructure. So roads, bridges, buildings, roofs, anything that ages. And it was so well received that it got us very energized about it, and right from the start. So that was really exciting. And then the quick adaptation of it, I was bootstrapped, I was out of pocket. So that also weighs in. If you're making an investment and you don't see return over a certain amount of time, people start to scratch their heads. Like for me, people were scratching their heads anyway. Like, you're going to leave an established, successful career to go play with drones. And because what people knew about drones was they were the toys that were becoming prolific and not, you could now buy at Best Buy.
Yeah.
So there was some doubters. So, but once we saw the success, it was pretty exciting.
That's exciting. How about as a business leader, continuous learning is so important. Can you share? Is there a book or is there something that you've read that had impact on you that you would recommend for other of our listeners?
Yeah. So I've actually, me and my friends and some of my mentors talk about things that we read, and I love to get suggestions from them. And one of them was the E Myth, E being entrepreneur. And I'm on that now. And that author has multiple books out from the E Myth, which is the entrepreneurial myth. He's got a whole series of these books out, but from everything from startups to he covers a wide range of careers and professions and things like that, a whole range of them. But I've really enjoyed the E Myth because he talks about breaking up what is entrepreneurialism and why do you want it. Which is interesting for some people because it might be that you don't want the office grind or the daily 9 to 5, which is okay. Do you want something else? Do you want to build a company that's acquirable? The hockey stick growth type of thing that we all discuss. What is it that you're after? And he helps break down how you ascertain what is it that you want. Because if what you want doesn't jive with what your company is, you're probably headed in two different directions with your thoughts and your processes, which is very true for a lot of companies. Why do you want the company and what does it do versus what do you want out of it? So I found that a very good read.
That's great. You're very involved with STEM outreach and workforce development. I'm so excited. What are some things that we can do as a region? What are some things you're doing? And then what are some things that we can do as a region to really help prepare tomorrow's workforce?
Yeah, I'm very involved. I've throughout my career, both in architecture and in UAS, I couldn't have gotten to where we are in either without a lot of great mentors. So I've always been interested in giving back. Of course, you can't always. There's no shortage of people asking us to give, as you know. You probably get tugged in 100 directions. So you have to pick and choose, but I find that I've been given so much and wouldn't be where I'm at, that it's important for us to give back. And so we've been involved with the State Fair STEAM program with CNS companies, for instance. We've had drone booths out there. We have a drone. In fact, one of our drone cages, our netting that we use to test drones in when we're testing optics and sensors, that's on loan right now to the Syracuse City School District.
Oh, wow.
To their drone program. So we work with them very closely. We're actually going to be working with them more closely with the STEAM school. That's when those discussions now. So I think it's very important on several levels because that's actually how we find talent as well. So we see young folks coming up through school, college, whatever, that are interested in UAS. We see scientists that are being trained now in UAS, which is remarkable. So there's a lot of overlaps in the careers, and that gives us real hope and real opportunity to both meet people and contribute back. We're talking about a drone program that would allow us to train. It's a train to work program with Syracuse City and County for some real projects that are happening in the Syracuse and Central New York area, and getting folks trained up and on those projects. So with our teams, and even be able to hire them and train them by showing them how to migrate and do our work. So yeah, it's really great to give back, and it's a great way to find talent and contribute to new technology.
Working with you and seeing what you do, it's very, very inspiring. And I'm lucky to get, to have that relationship with you and be able to learn. But what advice would you give an aspiring professional to make a mark in UAS and AI-driven industries?
I think the same thing that I've been told is that get as much knowledge as you can and get credibility. Because it's about having knowledge, but it's also about being respected. When you can go out there and talk knowledgeably, and because there's a lot of noise, as you know, there's a lot of noise in all of it. There's a lot of people that want in. There's a record number of people getting their Part 107s. And then you'll see them post in forums. They'll post what next to other workers. And more people are bringing in a skill that they have, like I did, for instance. I was already working in AEC and saw UAS and AI as a tool to bring into that space. That's not always possible if you're starting out your career or just starting out your career, but the more you can do that, find out what your true interest is, and then if there's a way to combine AI and UAS and data with that, then you're going to be far more successful than just learning AI, UAS, and data and trying to go out there and find a solution or find an outlet for it. We really already had an outlet. We just brought new tools to the table and developed them together in a new way to solve problems, which for the US, we mentioned we're 13th. We're way behind. And before 2020, I did a presentation. There were over 8,000 buildings scaffolded in New York City awaiting inspection. So those are scaffolded buildings with inspection permits, and they're waiting to be inspected. They're now over, I think it's where the number's creeping up around 13,000 permits in New York City, in the boroughs of New York City awaiting inspection. So we're working there now. UAS, we're not even allowed in New York City. So there was no real solution for them. There was no catch-up solution. What myself and other companies presented was that if you open this up to UAS, we're doing these inspections in 1/10 the time, and couple that with AI, and we're able to reduce those inspection times by 20x. So what they saw was an opportunity that if there were many other reasons for them to open up UAS in New York City, but one of them was our argument that you're never going to catch up. US is never going to catch up, and New York City in particular is never going to catch up with the inspection backlog if we don't do this. And that was what started the ball rolling. So to answer your question, I think people are going to have more success if they can have an expertise and bring UAS and AI as a tool to that.
I love the other thing that you said that I think is so important is to be respected. Like you can learn and be a learner, but to be respected is something that's actually earned. And through obviously your actions and your engagement.
Yeah, those were, that was actually, I was told that by the folks at the 174th. And military folks are big on, they don't say it usually if they don't know it.
Yeah.
They have redundancy, they have training. There's some of ex-military, that's why you mentioned, do we train ex-military? And we do. We love their regimented, their thought process that's been ingrained in them. They bring that to the safety and operational aspect of our UAS teams. And it's a different mindset. So they've been very good, but it was some of the folks at the 174th. We were about to do a project for them, and they mentioned, it was very early and we were gaining credibility with the FAA. And they mentioned airspace credibility and understanding the technicalities of airspace, and the military component of that was very important. And that helped us quite a bit. So it's really important.
Well, a huge thank you to our guest, Gavin Snyder, for sharing his insights on how AI and drone technology are revolutionizing infrastructure monitoring. Sounds like you can't do enough in New York City tomorrow, right?
That's right.
We'd also like to express our gratitude to our partners and supporters who help make this podcast possible, including Institute of Optics, Genius New York, Luminate Accelerator, AFWorks, Cider Technologies, Archangel Imaging, and AUVSI. As a very special shout out to Scott Fitzgerald at Rockvox Studios, our producer, for ensuring that this conversation reaches you with the highest quality. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to 360 Pulse Podcast and stay tuned for more conversations about the intersection of immersive technology, innovation, and real-time situational awareness. You can always reach me at jennifer@circleoptics.com and connect with us on LinkedIn and Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future guests. Thank you for joining us.